So I'm crying and hugging in this story.
Okay, it's 6 o'clock. Call this to order. Start with a pledge of allegiance. You all join me? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible. Thank you. Lynn, would you please call the roll?
Dan Boltner,
Here.
Craig Wortman,
Here.
Mike Higgins.
Here.
Lori Holland. Here. Fred Yant.
Here.
Diana Johnson. Here. Sam Owineal.
Here.
David Schrader.
Here. Okay, Dr. Burke, we have a preview of the agenda. Are there any changes, edits, notes, comments? Okay, very good. We now have a 15-minute slotted or slated for public comment. As we've been doing for the last few months, we're going to limit it to 3 minutes a person, which is really only going to be about 5 people. If there are that many who would like to speak. Also, there was another public comment at the end. Hopefully there is a piece of paper that you could have picked up on the way in or on Melissa's desk right now. You're still required to give us your name at the podium before you speak, but you don't have to spend your time writing your name down at that time. You can fill out that piece of paper and leave it in the basket upon your departure. And only words of encouragement are keep it positive. So who would like to speak first? Okay.
Hello, esteemed board, people, friends. My name is Elizabeth Foxall, 809 Casey Drive. Many of you know me as the multilingual teacher at Schurz. I've been here also representing the PTO, but tonight I get to represent the Education Foundation of Watertown. I'm so excited that so many people are here because you guys can hear more about us. Just a few updates on the Education Foundation. We've been around for 25 years. So this year we are celebrating by asking many people for donations, $25 for 25 years. And you can do that through our brand new website with the help of Maria Garcia, Charity Chandler. We have a gorgeous website that not only details what we are, what we do, who we stand for, but also it gives you a super easy way to donate. Some cool things about us this year, we upped our grant total to $50,098 to over 65 grant requests from teachers in both parochial and public schools in our district. All the way down from the preschools all the way up to the high schools. Traditionally, the past several years, it's been $40,000, but because of generous donors and supporters, we were able to go a little bit past 50,000 straight into the Watertown district. And of course, like I said, some of the private schools as well. And I want to personally invite all of you to the Jig Jog, which is our biggest fundraiser of the year, taking place on March 15th. If you are not a jogger, we are always looking for volunteers to help along the routes, point to where people are going, keep them safe. And you can also sign up for that, I believe, on our Facebook page. Dan Voltner is our liaison, and we're very grateful for that. We look forward to seeing you, hopefully at one of our upcoming meetings. We've missed you these past couple ones, but we're grateful for you to be there. And I think that's just about it. So just a reminder. Oh, one more thing. We will also have a fundraiser through the Piggly Wiggly Roundup, which we're super grateful for, starting on Super Bowl Sunday, going through to the 14th. So if you make a point to shop at Piggly Wiggly during that week, some of that money will come back to us, the Education Foundation. Every year, teachers are able to request for grants. We had a total of 78 requests, which is why we bumped up to $50,000 this year. Any teacher in the district, from flexible seating, we've done books, we've helped to support the therapy dog at Douglas, we've done imaginative play materials, and you can find all of that on our website. But please remember us, please help. Come enjoy the Jig Jog by jogging or volunteering. And if you have any questions about it, I'll be hanging around. So thank you guys again for all that you do, and to double support our students, I invite everyone once again to the Jig Jog or to sign up for our newsletter on our website, the Education Foundation of Watertown. Thanks, you guys. Oh, thank you. Although I know you're doing that for the organization, I will take it off.
Sorry.
Okay. Anyone else who'd like to speak at public comment? Very good. Anyone online? Oh, go ahead.
Hi, my name's John Merkel, 1101 North Fourth Street, Watertown. I attended the school system through my life. So did my son's mother, so did my son, and so do 3 of our grandchildren currently. And we have issues that we'd like to just address. I guess I didn't come here to tell anybody anything, but just bring up a couple of things. I think it's a little ironic that you got a seat to fill tonight this close to the spring primary. I don't really understand how that happened or how that seat is going to get filled with candidates that weren't running for the primary, but we think it's a matter of concern. I realize that Tina Johnson has resigned, and that's the reason for the vacancy of the seat. But in the succession of it and the fact that you guys are going to vote on something here tonight, I did come speak. I would like to address the fact that C was settled at the end of last year. We did this ironically like a month before the federal election. I think it's more than coincidence that changes in the divisions that happen between liberals and conservatives and the value of that means on this board needs to be brought to concern for a balance. I'd like to see a bigger focus on academics in the schools, not theologies, idealisms, indoctrinations. We need to teach these kids that whatever they do in this world, they should think for themselves and not like us. What we're doing, maybe it's working, maybe it's not, but they need to be better tomorrow because their kids are the ones that they really need to look out for. And I think that in terms of academics, that all needs to be kept in mind. My grandson attends the Riverside Junior High, or the middle school, I guess it's called now. And, we were wondering, did anybody ask any of the kids what they think about any of this? And so we did. And he said his friends really don't care. They think it's more of an adult problem. They just don't care. If there's a bathroom, they'll use it. If not, whatever. They have their own way. They're not hung up on this. And they're not on social media like everybody else and everything. And they're not a bunch of adults bickering that can't figure out how to find their own resolution. So if there's anything being taught to children, which is what we're supposed to be doing collectively, it's that we're teaching them 2 things. First of all, if you don't have enough money, you just borrow more later. And second thing is, adults haven't supposed to be able to figure this all out already and passing on lessons to our kids.
Sir, you wrap it up, please.
We're failing. Yeah, I came here to support Jacob Wagner for the open seat that you guys have tonight from the view of conservatives in town. Thank you.
Thank you. Any others, please? Okay, Tyler, none online. Outstanding. We will now move into the election for the vacant board officer position. That's not for the vacant board position. That is the individual who resigned 2 months ago did it 3 days before the last meeting. Therefore, we weren't able to replace her as a clerk. So we are now in a position where we still need a clerk for the board, albeit only for probably another month and a half. So even if you're leaving, you could be a clerk. Anyway, anything else on that? Good, great. Like to entertain any motions or nominations for the position of clerk from now until the April meeting, at which point we'll get another reorganization.
I nominate Lori Holland.
Do you accept that nomination? Do I have a second on that nomination? Are there any other nominations for the position of clerk? Thanks, Lori.
You're welcome.
All in favor, voice acclamation, please.
Aye.
Awesome. Thank you, Lori.
Yeah. Thanks, Lori.
Add it to your resume.
There
2
you go,
months.
There you go.
Appreciate it. Then you'll have a bunch of stuff to sign when
Okay.
afterwards.
fine. I can do that.
Okay, next up is our Watertown High School Student Board Representative, Addison Schrader. Welcome back.
Hi. So since last time I was here last month, we've had a couple of new things happen. I'm in the wrong one second. We've had our HOSA, which is Future Healthcare Professions, had their competition and their regional results just came in this past weekend. HOSA is selling Valentine's cookies along with a fundraiser at Jersey Mike's 4 to 9 tonight. Where all the proceeds will go to HOSA and sending the students to state. Students just selected their courses for next year. During our homeroom, juniors specifically have been preparing for the ACT. January 10th through 12th, the Ecology Club at the high school took a trip up to Minocqua and Eagle River where they learned about wildlife and did outdoor recreation. DECA students traveled to DeForest where Ella Mock placed first and is a state qualifier. There was a forensic tournament hosted by WHS on the 18th. Wrestling had their final home duel last Friday, which was also their senior night, along with they hosted their home opener on January 9th. And boys baseball and other spring sports have started to prepare for their seasons. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, also in the vein of recognition and communications and announcements, Dr. Burke has some donations that he'd like to share with the board and the public.
Yeah, a number of
Well, not share,
donations.
announcements, not share the donations, just the announcements of the donations.
True.
Got it.
Yeah,
I misspoke. Yeah.
the first donation is from an anonymous donor. It's $1,000 towards our welding classroom. So thank you, anonymous donor. We appreciate that. The Watertown and Beaver Dam Elks Lodge donated $3,070 to our Douglas School Therapy Dog Program. Ryan's Auto Care had a donation to Skills USA for $200. River City Truck Repair donation to Skills USA for $250. Grinwald Ford donation towards Skills USA for $250. Walworth Law Offices donation towards Skills USA for $1,000. BASO or BASO Gas Products, $500 donation towards Skills USA. K&S Manufacturing of Exonia donation towards Skills USA for $1,000. Farm and Fleet donation of $320 towards Skills USA. Moss Brothers Construction, $1,000 donation towards Skills USA. Clausen Quality Chocolates, a donation of $1,000 towards Skills USA. Richter Heating and Air Conditioning, $500 donation towards Skills USA. Interpack of Wisconsin Incorporated, $1,000 towards towards Skills USA. Waupun Equipment Co., $100 donation towards Skills USA. Nicholson Manufacturing, $1,000 donation towards Skills USA. And that's it. We do have two other donations, but those are major donations that require board approval, and they will be at the end of our meeting as a vote for the board, a resolution for the board. Thank you.
Okay, say a round of applause for all those donors and for Skills USA. We appreciate the community support. Hopefully the next, I'm gonna say 1 to 2 minutes is the most you're gonna have to hear me talk tonight, but this is going to be part of what a lot of people are here for and not something that we do that often. So we're very happy that we have 7 qualified skilled candidates that have expressed interest in the recently opened seat. And I'll briefly address that per state statute, given that resignation happened after, I believe, the second or third Tuesday in or November.
Yep.
By state law, that position doesn't get filled until the subsequent election. It gets filled until the election of the following year. Normally, had that resignation occurred, let's say in October or in August, this appointment would only be until the next election, which would be April 1st. Because it happened after the fall election in November, that appointment by definition, state law has to go for roughly 15 months. And we have roughly 60 days to fill it. This is not a district policy. This is a state law. So that's why we are where we are. And I appreciate the 7 of you coming here and expressing interest. So with that, I'll go through both for your benefit, the board's benefit. This was in board docs as well for the public's. Each candidate will be given the opportunity to address the board, explaining their interest and qualifications. We've asked them to keep it to 3 minutes each. We won't put you on a hard timer, but it'll be one of your grades that we'll be giving you is just how quick, how concise you can be. The board will have the opportunity to ask questions. I'll ask the board that, let's say, Mike, you want to start off with a question, and there's maybe 2 or 3 questions of the first candidate, that if that's it, that the next questions for the next candidate start with a different board member. So I don't want Mike going first with every single board member. I want to make sure that we can get through all of our questions. There is no limit to how long we can interview a candidate. In which case it could last I expect it to last longer than the 3 minutes each at the podium, but it really depends on how many of our questions are similar and how well you answer them to our liking. So just be aware of that. At the conclusion of all the candidate remarks and the board questions, the board members will vote by signed written ballot for their preferred candidate. Lynn has those already filled out. We'll be circulating them through the room, through the 8 of us. Checking boxes and collecting. Plurality does not win the vote. So if it's a 2-2-4 vote, the winner is not declared with 4. There are 8 of us. The winner has to get 5 of those 8. We will keep on voting until there is a clear majority, 5 of 8, or until there is a 4-4 tie. No one is ever fully out of consideration until that 4-4 tie, and I'm not even temporarily out of consideration. The board will vote again at least 5 times to try to break that deadlock on that 4-4 tie. If it cannot be broken after the 5-5, the president, me, can declare a deadlock, and then we will switch to a nomination process. Any of you still interested, whether you were part of the 4-4 tie or not, are still possibly viable to be nominated. A nomination has to occur by one board member and seconded by another board member, and each board member only gets one or the other, either a first or a second, which means that there can only be 4 of you, given there's 8 of us, and 2 votes for each one of you. And at that point, your names will be placed in a hat, and I will trust Lynn to take the name out of the hat. And that's how we will break the tie.
Or a basket.
Or a basket, no hats. The only other thing is the voting or the order in which we're gonna have you speak is going to just draw them out of the basket randomly, and that's the order you're gonna go. So before we start any of that, I will ask the board for questions, but I'll also give the benefit to the 7 of you if you have any questions on that, because obviously it directly impacts you as well. So everybody clear on that methodology? Okay, great.
I need to make a motion.
I'm
Is
sorry,
that the
Craig,
process?
Oh, do we need a motion to accept that
Craig
policy?
has a question.
Oh, yeah.
No, I have no question about policy.
Okay.
I did have only a personal privilege. Once that 1 minute here. I just wanted to thank that, board members for being present here, and, it was brought to my attention that there was some character, attacks on social media, and I think that's unbecoming of Watertown. So, I think it's really a challenge to get board members to step up and want to serve in this kind of a position. And I realize that we have good people in front of us here today, and that, we don't always have to agree, but Watertown is a community of good people. So, if I've learned anything while serving on this board, that personal character attacks don't make people want to advocate for your position. It just makes you a jerk. So, I respect every single candidate that is here. Thank you for stepping up. And I definitely am eager to hear what you have to say. So I don't know where any of the personal attacks were coming from. But I would ask that whoever is responsible for that to stop. You are not helping. Our community deserves better. Thank you.
Thank you, Craig, for saying
Thanks,
that.
Craig.
Mhm.
Okay. Let's get the party started.
Do we need to vote on the?
Oh,
Resolution to approve the process.
Okay, can I have a voice acclamation on that motion?
Second.
Second,
Okay,
motion,
who first?
voice, that was Fred and Mike.
Okay.
Fred and Mike, first and second. I'll go with the voice acclamation on that, this method.
Thank you.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Awesome. Now we can start.
First person. Missy Cooper.
Good evening, I'm Missy Kukan, and I'm applying for the interim board position because I bring unique skills that would benefit the board and our community. The upcoming referendum this April is crucial to ensuring that our schools remain strong and continue to prepare our students for successful futures. At this time, it is vital to educate Watertown constituents about why this referendum is necessary and the consequences if it doesn't pass. Especially for those with children that are not in our school system, and for residents concerned about the tax increase following the last assessments. As a Watertown Farmers Market manager, I am deeply entrenched in our community and spend much of the time engaging with Watertown residents, ranging from our senior citizens to parents of young school-age children and business owners. Through the creation of the Watertown Farmers Market tote and its goose emblem, I have learned and witnessed firsthand our community is extremely enthusiastic and supportive of all things Watertown. Watertonians are proud of our city. And as board members, we need to help them understand that the strength of our school system also means the strength of our community. Our city grows when our children grow. I believe my experience in education, particularly communicating and with educating adults, uniquely positions me to help the board effectively share this message with the public. People are more likely to engage and support initiatives that they understand and how those initiatives affect their lives personally. I am confident that my skills and my community connections can support the board in its efforts to build trust, foster understanding, and gain support that it's needed to pass this referendum. Thank you.
Questions? Fire away if you got them, but get recognized from me first.
I've got
Go ahead, Dan.
thank you for caring about our kids. Appreciate that. Do you believe there are more than two genders?
Can I ask a question of you with that
I just
question?
want, I just want a yes or no.
Well, I'm not sure what that has to do with our referendum or our education.
I'll take
So
yes
that
or
would be
no.
my question. How does that pertain to educating our children?
And question two,
Mm-hmm.
if you had to choose a form of government, would you choose capitalism or socialism?
That has nothing to do with educating our children. So I would again ask, what does this, our position, the board's number one job is to educate our children. And we can only do that if we have the funds in which to educate them. So I'm sure you'd understand, Dan, that my focus to participate on this board is to make sure that we have the means to continue a great education. That's only going to happen if we can fund our education system. I'd love to have those discussions with you over coffee, but they're not a school board position question.
I have one more question. Are you in favor of a merit-based system or diversity, equity, and inclusion?
again, Dan, I will refer to my other question or my other statement. These aren't the questions for our school board to be deciding on how we educate our children with. Right now, this referendum should be our #1 policy and drive. Because without that money, I believe you said at the meeting last Monday, we'd lose 60 to 80 positions, which would have a huge impact on our community. We're talking about housing, we're talking about economic resources being lost. This is what we need to focus on. Those issues are great issues to discuss. I'd love to sit down with coffee and discuss them with you, but not during a board time.
Okay, thank you, Missy.
Mhm.
Diana.
It'll be a role-playing situation. And it's this, and it'll be the same for all of you. You're in a situation, so this is total role play,
Mhm.
where your opinion differs from many others on the board.
Mhm.
What would you do to help the other board members see your point of view where theirs may be different?
I'd first have to understand their point of view. So I'd want to know where they're coming from, where the ideas came from. And when I would teach my kids, like To Kill a Mockingbird, you gotta be able to stand in someone else's shoes. I'd have to be able to stand in their shoes to understand where they're coming from, so that I could try and show them my perspective. If I can understand where they're coming from, it helps me adjust my thought process. But ultimately, when people have deep-seated beliefs or roots, you're not going to change opinion. You have to find consensus in those opinions. And that's what this is about, is finding consensus and finding the center of the opinion, so that we can, as we've seen, you can get more done if you can find the center of the issue.
You mentioned a lot about, the referendum, and you feel that strongly that that's a pretty big thing that we have to focus
This
on
year,
right now.
yeah.
Aside from that, my question was, what are some of the other biggest threats or weaknesses that we have as a district? We need to focus on as an opportunity.
It's hard for me to separate that. As a former 30-year high school teacher and having been in education most of my life, if we don't have the funds to support to be able to hire and retain teachers, to be able to keep class sizes small, to be able to keep all of the incredible programming we have, there's going to be a myriad of problems. So that's why I feel it's so passionate that this board stays focused right now on the referendum and helping our constituents understand why it's so important, because everything will fall apart without it. Then we will have a lot of problems making sure that our children are educated. And it's not the board's problem. This wasn't something that you did. This is something that's happened since 1990s when funding was lowered for the school systems. I mean, and that's something that our constituents need to understand why this exists. It's not a misappropriation of funds. It's that we don't have the funds, and we were never allowed to have the funds because they haven't raised as much.
Do you recognize any other threats or weaknesses within the district?
The division.
Okay.
You mentioned before we started with the social media and what's happening. And social media allows people to chum the waters, to create dissidents. And they do it for two reasons. And it's easy when it's blinded, particularly when people do it anonymously. I've never accepted an anonymous letter. I've never accepted an anonymous statement, because you're not, if you feel it, say it. But for years now, people have been chumming the waters and getting everybody whipped up without facts. And so I would say right now there is an issue with social media and the messaging that is being put out there.
Sam.
Yeah, so, kind of returning to, as a jumping off point from what Dan talked about earlier, I do think that questions of gender identity, critical race theory, or critical theory in general are really important in a school because you are dealing with policy and you're dealing with things like that. So if you were in Sun Prairie 6 to 8 months ago, when Sun Prairie was dealing with a situation where a child was assaulted in the bathroom because of a, let's call it more progressive policy, how would you have dealt with that situation?
Well, as I said in my email to you, Dan, and the rest of the board that was copied on it, that was a very inappropriately handled situation. That was an administrative issue. But I will also say this, that was not an issue because of trans. That was an issue of lack of empathy, morality, and understanding each other. We could talk statistics if you'd like regarding those. But I will say, and I have said in the letter to the newspaper, just because someone is trans does not make them a sex offender. And just because a woman shows up in a locker room doesn't mean she's me raped. I mean, would you rape a woman if she walked into a locker room?
Certainly not.
Okay, so
May I
then
ask
let's,
you a follow-up
that,
question then?
that argument that because a woman shows up in a male's locker room, she'll be raped is superfluous. We're not showing, we're telling men that they can't control themselves. And so that's, when you talk about Sun Prairie as an isolated incident, it was a horrible incident and it was handled horribly.
Mhm.
But that was a person. It's not the 3,000 plus other students that we need to make sure have classrooms and books and teachers.
Okay, so just as a follow-up question, I want to make it clear, you don't think that leaving that door open metaphorically is an issue? You think that it's fine? There are some outlier cases, but it's not a big deal. It doesn't encourage.
I'm going to go back to what I said with Dan. I'd love to have that discussion on personal beliefs, on personal time.
Mhm.
But I am interviewing for a board position. And my stance is that this board's #1 goal this season until April, which is very close, is to make sure that Watertown understands the importance of this referendum to ensure these schools stay open and to ensure our economy stays growing, and it is growing.
And yeah, I don't want to, I'd rather you not ask two questions.
That's fine.
If that's okay. I don't, otherwise we can be asking the same person many questions all night. But,
Great.
but at a minimum, want to make sure Fred, Mike and Lori have nothing.
I'm more of a listener than a speaker, so
Okay.
I appreciate letting me listen.
I understand.
And I've taken notes, but if it's okay, Greg, to not.
That's fine.
Okay.
We can move on.
Okay, great. Thank you. Thank you.
Got the next candidate right here in my hand already. Our next candidate, April Whitty.
Hello, everyone. As you know, my name's April Whitty. I have a little bit of a different kind of situation. I'm a different kind of candidate compared to maybe the other candidates. Because I'm part of the deaf and hard of hearing community. I feel like I can offer a whole new perspective to this board. And I feel like my perspective would be a perspective that the board has never been offered before. I've grown to be a part of the deaf and hard of hearing community over time, especially with the Watertown deaf and hard of hearing community. We need Watertown to have more inclusiveness and acceptance. Because in the past, if you remember, the schools used to teach ASL, American Sign Language. Maybe some of you remember, maybe some of you don't.
Stacia
I'm
Studio
not sure, but
joined the meeting.
maybe some of the teachers remember too. Now these kids have turned into adults, the ones that were taught that. I feel like I would be able to connect with many of our deaf and hard of hearing children here in the Watertown community. I feel like I'd be able to help offer that perspective to help those children. Why can't we try to develop a program that focuses on that again, as we used to have in the past? I think that would be something we could bring to this district. I think it would be highly successful. I understand the importance of the referendum coming up. I feel like that would be positive if it passed. Maybe people will find a reason to vote for that. Or maybe some people may appeal the referendum. There will be both sides to it. Excuse me, let me just gather my thoughts here. We need to find each little group who has not realized what we can offer. I think if we're able to collect those different unique experiences, we could do that. We have a strong school here. It's always been strong. So why not make it even better than it has been? We have all the tools we need to be able to pass that referendum. The more families that we have connections and contact with, the better. My only hope is that I can bring more families who maybe don't have access to communication to have that. And I'd be happy to answer any questions that the board may have for me.
We'll start with Lori, Fred, and Mike, if you guys didn't ask last time, I don't think. Okay. Very good, that's fine, okay. Back to the top, or, oh, Fred, go ahead.
Thank you for coming tonight. It's a lot of courage to be here. I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Great. Dan, go ahead, Diana.
Standard question. Your viewpoint on a given topic is different than a bunch of ours sitting around the table. What steps or what would you do to help us understand your point of view where it may be different than ours?
It's simple. I would just take time to explain my viewpoint, my personal experiences that led me to that viewpoint. Because the problem is, it's hard for people to know exactly where someone's coming from and how we are who we are and what leads us to our beliefs. So I would try my best to be able to explain why I have that perspective.
Thank you.
Oh, I did forget to say something. I have 6 children, 4 who have graduated from Watertown, 2 who are still attending Watertown School District. So I've had a little experience, I would say, within this district, going through all those children.
April, I'm gonna ask the same questions I asked Missy. Do you believe there are more than 2 genders?
I guess I don't know how to answer that. How does that apply, I guess, to, money and class sizes and access and accessibility?
Question 2. If you had to choose a form of government, would you choose capitalism or socialism?
I guess I've only ever experienced capitalism, so
And
I
last
don't
question-
know.
Yeah, last question, April. Are you in favor of a merit-based system or diversity, equity, and inclusion?
With all respect, would you even ask somebody who's deaf, a deaf girl, that question?
I guess I just did, yeah. Thank you.
I feel like that's, I guess, an awkward question for me to answer, to have to answer.
Understood.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks, Dan. Craig or Sam?
I'll ask one. I have a hard of hearing family member too, so. Give it. What do you feel are the biggest strengths of our district?
I love the middle school that we have here. The greenhouse that they've developed, it's fantastic. I think that's a great strength. My kids cherished that in the middle school. Mhm. I think our music program is also fantastic, a strength. All the kids are able to access the music program, so all 6 of my children have, and they've cherished that here, so that's definitely a strength.
Sam?
No.
And I don't know if I can really limit it to just a few things. We have so many. Mhm.
April, I do have a question. You mentioned what your hope was or what you thought you could do as far as connecting differing groups in this community and bringing them into the fold. What specific skill sets would you employ that you think would be an attribute to this board or to this district in order to achieve that?
I work a lot with AMVETS. And I think 11 years now I've been involved with that. Also, the city vets council as well. I've been a part of that. I know we have a lot of work to be able to connect and set things up and fundraisers as well. I've had experience with that. So I think if, we fundraise together, we come together, we bring different groups together to be able to do that, we'd have success. I think different people can connect. I mean, we have different ways to connect in communication too. So we need to have variety of different thoughts and perspectives and different groups together to be successful. It requires a village.
Thank you. I think we got everybody around the table, so thank you for your time. Thank you for coming in.
Next candidate is Charity Chandler.
You may know me from recent Facebook posts and an unsuccessful campaign for school board last year. That said, my passion for it hasn't waned. I was born and raised in this community. I'm a product of the Watertown Catholic and Watertown High School system, and I'm a small business owner owning Chandler House Bakery. For me, co-curriculars were an incredible part of my educational experience in Watertown, being very highly involved and engaged. And as I think about some of the things that were just mentioned here, some of the main strengths of our district, a lot of these things fall in those categories. And as a small business, we've supported the football, baseball program, dance program. The Skills USA young men were just in our backyard working on finishing a shed for us in that building project. I take a look at the music boosters and enjoy going to the theater events and the music events that are put on here. We raised money as a business to pay off the student lunch debt in the district and raised money to allow students to pay off their fees to participate at graduation because it's an important rite of passage in their lives. And we feel strongly about it. And recently we're also awarded a $1,000 backpack grant to support the Gosling Nest because we know if students don't have the food that they need, they don't have the attention that they need in order to succeed in the classroom. As it relates to qualifications, I do have an advanced degree in education and policy. I've served more than 12 years as leader in Booster Club and Education Foundation boards across the 2 communities in which I've lived and have more than 20 years of communications experience. As many folks here have already mentioned, we know that we have a lot that we're staring down these next few years between looking at a strategic plan and what some of the recommendations are, excuse me, for that and what that will mean for our community. The referendum is a given, but at the end of the day, we have thousands of students that are counting on us to talk about more than the one subject that we've been very focused on these past few months. So for me, the 3 things that I hope to bring: communication, collaboration skills, and care for the students in our community. And I welcome any questions.
Okay. Thank you, Charity. We'll start back at the top. Craig, go ahead.
I have just a couple of questions here. Actually, just one really. I'm going off of the recent strategic plan that we put together as a district. The mission and vision statement specifically, and the mission statement states, we serve our students by providing educational opportunities to promote academic excellence and a lifelong love of learning. Vision statement states, we inspire learners with a student-centered education strengthened by community involvement. what if anything would you change?
Well, it's a great question. What I might change might be different than everybody else in this room. And at the end of the day, I was part of those strategic planning sessions that happened over the course of the summer. And I feel proud that as a community, we came together to create those statements. So at the end of the day, as a board member, as a school district representative, it's my goal to ensure that we are doing everything we can to align to that mission and vision.
Diana, yeah. we
Same
know it's
question.
coming.
You know it's coming. Your viewpoint, different than ours. And I'm sorry, you guys all know it's coming, so do I need to repeat it verbatim? How do you get us so we're seeing something similar to you?
No, I appreciate the question, and I do think active listening, as previously mentioned, is a big part of it. For me, I am a self-proclaimed data nerd. And for me, I think that data will trump opinions in many cases, if you have relevant data to back it up. So for me, I would look at it to say, do we have data points to support my position? Or are there more data points or stronger data points that will support someone else's position? Because for me, everyone in this room, if we ask them a question, may have a different opinion. But what's on paper, what either come through in surveys, what's come through in enrollment numbers, what the projections have been done by relevant experts, those are going to speak loudly. So for me, I would lean toward data and then conversation and active listening.
Just because, good answer. I liked your answer, but to go off of that answer, if the data's telling you one thing and your constituents are asking for another, how would you handle that? Where would you sit?
No, and that's a great point as well. Because I think everybody that's on this board has probably come across something in your tenure that you haven't agreed with. You know, and from a data perspective, we have to look at what's in the best needs of the district. We have to look at existing policy. We have to look at who are those policy makers that we're going to. Are they standardized, and what other schools are looking to? Are we looking to the subject matter experts? And continue to come back to, my role is to listen to everyone. You know, and so it's a nuanced conversation. We can say, I'll listen to the constituents. If, 51 people tell me this and 49 people tell me that, would I like to say 51%? Yes. At the same time, I can't blanket statement that across the board, because there are financial considerations potentially to take into account. There are HR conversations to take into account. That might be some of the things that we're looking at. So I think for me, it's a yes and. It's listen to the data, listen to the constituents, and then listen to my colleagues, because you all have more experience serving on this board than I do. So what does that bring to the table?
Dan?
Charity, I'm gonna ask the same 3 questions, but first, I want the recipe for those cupcakes, those chocolate ones.
Right.
We can talk after.
No quid pro quo here, friends.
Do you believe there are?
Tiffany Listel joined the meeting.
My personal belief in what the NIH states, which is a government agency, are different. They state there are 2 sexes, but there are multiple gender variants.
For socialism.
Well, I had Mr. Suski in 9th grade, and he told me those are economic systems rather than forms of government. But I think by nature, public schools are a socialistic idea. Garbage collection across the community is a socialistic idea. I think to go all in one direction, all in another, I'm a small business owner. I love capitalism. You want to come in and buy some cupcakes, friend, I'll take it. But I think that for me, it's not just as easy as saying one or the other.
And then lastly, are you in favor of a merit-based system or diversity, equity, and inclusion?
Well, I think it's no secret in this room what I do for my primary role is in diversity, equity, and inclusion. I guess my question would be, are you talking about recruitment? Are you talking about promotion? Are you talking about staff or student? Because I think that all of those can factor into that conversation when you're talking about merit and DE&I. Absolutely. Thanks for the questions.
Yeah, and my question is basically going to be a follow-up on the question I asked previously to Missy. To be clear, between maintaining a partition between male and female spaces in schools or allowing for the biological sexes to cross over on the basis of their perceived gender identity? Which one would you support?
And again, I feel that it's not a this and, I would look to see what the existing policy was. If I had a challenge to that policy, then I would go to the school board meeting and share with them, as many folks in our community have, as they have a strong position on it. I think that there are other more creative solutions that some districts have looked at, which are the non-gendered restroom facilities. How are we keeping our students safe on both sides? Whether you stand for this side or this side is the underlying question. And so how are we looking at overall student safety and making the best, most responsible decisions from a policy perspective to keep our students safe is front of mind. And I know that's one of the things that, you know, is a talking point for the referendum, is the importance of student safety.
I do have one, Charity. You said, if I heard it right, or if I wrote it down right, a focus on communication and collaboration. I think that was in part of your introduction to yourself. But I'll ask, what's the one attribute or skill that you think that is your strength, that you will be the biggest asset to this board or to this district? Not a focus, your skill.
I think it's unification as much as possible. Never will all sides agree, but I think finding a way toward common ground, finding a way to have respectful conversations and respectful discussion around different folks' viewpoints is key. I seek with the bakery to have a place where everybody feels welcome. And when you walk in, I don't care who you vote for. I just care that you like good bakery, you know, and I think that's the baseline of what these conversations are here. It's like we're all entitled to our own opinion, and everybody in this room is, and everybody has a right to express it. But are we being respectful of one another in the conversation would be what I would hope to bring.
Anyone else, you listeners? Oh, Fred's got something.
Last question, but I'm disappointed you didn't say cupcakes.
I was thinking the same thing.
Oh, yeah, bringing cupcakes to the board. Yeah.
Making us all 10 pounds heavier.
Nice try.
I'm sure somewhere there's an ethics policy around it.
Nice try.
Depends on the dollar amount.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Depends on the cupcake. Anything else? Awesome. Well done. Thank you, Charity.
Thank you.
Next candidate, Caitlin Krieger.
Hello, can you hear me okay? Okay. Good evening to Watertown's finest and all the board members here. It's my pleasure to be standing before you tonight. It's great to see that my community cares about what's happening with the school board. Thank you for allowing me this time to introduce myself, and for your careful consideration in appointing me to the 9th seat on the board. The opportunity to serve Watertown, the place that I called home from the time I was born until I was 25, and then from age 33 until now, would sincerely be my pleasure. In 2013, I moved to Tucson, Arizona, where I lived in the desert, continued to pursue my passion, and hone my skill set in the beauty industry and as a small business owner. I love the desert and all my friends who are like my family, all my wonderful clients. However, my family was in Wisconsin. So in 2021, I packed my bags and I headed back to the frozen tundra. It's my delight to be around my family again. I strive to be the best aunt I can be for my 6 nephews and nieces. They're priceless and they grow up fast. Whenever our schedules align, I like to have them over for sleepovers. It's a good way to connect with them and aid them in connecting with one another. We can pick our friends, but our family was chosen for us. One day they'll need to lean on each other. I hope their relationships and love for each other developed in their childhood would help them endure the ups and downs of life as they lift each other up and walk forward. Children are our future. This is not a cliche, it's the truth. As the newest school board member here at WUSD, I will advocate for the students by representing the parents. The students here in the beautiful community of Watertown deserve a school board whose drive is to serve them with integrity and transparency. The families of WUSD are the consumers of the product we call education. Out of curiosity, as I prepared for today's board meeting, I attempted to locate two numbers. The first was the exact dollar amount allocated to each student enrolled in the district. The second was the yearly salary for the superintendent. I was surprised to be unable to locate either of these numbers on the district website. That's just a small example of a lack of transparency. The taxpayers, or as I like to call them, the parents' hard-earned money allows the district to be able to operate, and they deserve transparency. According to Google, WUSD receives over $13,000 per year for each student. Would anyone here walk into a store and give the cashier $13,000 and say, I don't really care what you do with the money that's going to help shape and mold my child. Here you go. That would be insane. I'm not sure anyone in this room would do that. As your 9th board member, I will take a values-neutral approach when making decisions, keeping the parents' concern for their children my number one priority. Yes, I carry my own worldview shaped by my experiences in life, as we all do. However, my views should not and will not trump the concerns of the parents. They and their children are the consumers, and they deserve fair representation. Personally, I was expelled by this board in 2005 at 16 years old. It was after that my life choices went from not so good to very bad. I caused much damage to myself and those around me. However, I eventually allowed these experiences to make me better. I let go of anger and bitterness and began to see the world through a different lens. Now at age 36, these experiences allow me to bring a unique viewpoint to the board, driven by empathy, understanding, and integrity. I understand that when a child is not doing well, it's not because they don't want to. Currently, I am a student myself. I value education and want to see each student in Watertown do well, and to know that as long as they have breath in their lungs, they have the power of choice inside of them to pursue excellence and to live their best life. By appointing me today, you will give me the opportunity to serve these students with excellence and be an example to those who are facing expulsion or have been expelled, that their life is not over. It has merely just begun. Thank you.
Stop again. Raise a hand.
Oh, I'll start if you have any. Same question. You're in a situation where your viewpoint or your opinion is different than the viewpoint of your fellow board members. Help us to see your point.
Sure. Well, we have 2 ears and 1 mouth, so it starts by listening and taking into consideration the viewpoints of the others. It's a board, so it's a collective coming together. So I think that's very important to listen. And then when it comes to sharing my viewpoint, to remain objective, not to let your emotions get involved, but to say, what is the goal? How can we achieve that? How do we get there? And by taking other people's viewpoints into consideration, that's also how I grow as a person. And so I think also when trying to explain your perspective, to use real life examples of maybe, okay, I've seen that, this is what happened, this is how I would do it different this time, this is why I think we should take this approach, and then remaining open to the other people on the board, and what they think and believe.
Thank you.
Dan.
Perhaps you were listening to the questions I asked you. So Caitlin, do you believe there are more than 2 genders?
No.
If you had to choose form of government, capitalism or socialism?
Capitalism.
are you in favor of a merit-based system for diversity, equity, and inclusion?
Merit-based. I think it should be based on each person, not what they look like or anything like that. It should be who they are and what they stand for.
Thank you.
And I've got the same question I had last time too, so I'll get that one out of the way as well. So if you're in a position, and it's specifically about the gendered bathrooms, the schools currently have a gender neutral restroom if a student or anyone wishes to use it. So in the case where you have gendered restrooms, would you personally support allowing the sexes to cross over, the biological sexes to cross over between the bathrooms, or would you not support that?
I would not support that.
Greg. What do you feel is the biggest opportunity we have here in Watertown?
As a community,
Well, as a school district.
as a school district, the biggest opportunity is our youth, I would say. I think there's a lot of trades in this town. And so I think not just pushing children into college, but also pushing them towards, what are they interested in? And if that's a technical skill, to really hone in on that and prepare them for their future to be successful outside of high school. I think as someone who went into cosmetology after high school. Yeah.
And I'll ask my same question,
Sure.
which is, you've mentioned that transparency. You mentioned, you'd start off by listening.
Yeah.
But if I asked you, what's your one attribute or skill that you uniquely possess that you can bring that would strengthen us as a board or as a community? What is that one skill or attribute?
I'm a connector. That's one thing that was a strength that made me a great cosmetologist, was connecting with my clients from various different backgrounds, different socioeconomic statuses. I love to connect with people. I like to hear people out, to feel where they're coming from. And so I don't like to discount anybody's opinion. I like to value what they have to say and take that into consideration. So I would say connecting. Yeah.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Anyone else? Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Up is David Morstad.
Hi, everyone. My name is Dave Morstead. Thanks very much for having me here. The information that I would share with you, you already have in written form and what I presented to you, so I'm not going to rehash all of that. I'll hit a couple of highlights and just say that, like many people here, I have a fairly long history in the district. My wife and I moved here in the 70s. We raised 3 kids from kindergarten through high school graduation in the district. And I now have 2 grandkids in the district. And so I will say what probably all 7 of the candidates have said. I feel like I have strong roots here, and I feel very close, and I feel very strongly about the work of the district. When you hear us all say that, you should believe it because it's true. We share that. So while I could say that's what's really driving my interest in the position, I think that the truer answer is probably more skill set related. I spent a career at Bethesda Lutheran Communities. It was called several different things over the 39 years that I worked there. But I was in a number of roles. I started out in the classroom, moved on to some leadership roles, did some curriculum development, ran an institute at the end, and left there, like I said, after 39 years in 2015. I picked up a lot in the leadership positions that I had, and that continued into retirement. In 2015, about a month after I left Bethesda, I received an appointment to the Governor's Committee for People with Disabilities. I was originally appointed by Governor Scott Walker, and I have continued that appointment under the current Governor Tony Evers. The fact that I have been able to effectively work under two decidedly different governors and work effectively with both of their staffs, I think has taught me a great deal, and I think is one of the strengths that I would bring to the board. The fact is, one of the things I've learned in that experience, also in some of the board work that I've done, I'm also on the board for CCLS here in town, Creative Community Living Services. And some of the other board work that I've done is that it's not easy always to achieve collaboration and consensus, but it is the thing that we are all called to do. And I think that if there is a strength that I could bring to the board, it would be just that. I think you can imagine that working with the staffs of those two governors, you run into things you don't agree with, and you are called to find some kind of solution. And there is collaboration, there is consensus building, and so on. I found the same thing in some of the consulting work that I've done over the years. I've had the opportunity to do that in local educational efforts. I've done it in churches, and I've had some international opportunities as well. I've outlined some of those in my written work, but I had the opportunity to do some teaching and consulting work in Latvia, in former Soviet Union. And I will tell you that, not a big surprise, but not everyone over there agrees with everybody else. In 2015, I had an opportunity to do some teaching in Istanbul. Again, this is not finding one side here and one side there and finding some collaboration. This is about finding 12 people and finding some collaboration. And it's that kind of stuff that I would look to bring to the board. I will try and anticipate a couple of questions. Number one, to achieve the collaboration and consensus building, one of the things you have to leave behind is the notion that there is a binary solution to problems. If there is a myth in every problem situation, it is that it's either this or it's that. And I'm setting Mr. Voltner up to be wildly disappointed with my answer to his 3 questions. But the fact is, it just simply doesn't exist. There has to be some give and take. And so whatever decision you make tonight, I hope it is informed by this fact. Whatever gender decisions are made, whatever the outcome of the April election, whatever the outcome of the referendum, when a lot of you are back here in May, the work you will find has not gone away. You are going to be called to do some really tough decision-making. And you're going to need people who show up as adults and can think like adults and solve problems like adults. I'm not saying that hasn't happened, but I think there's enough evidence in the community that people are starting to wonder. I think it is a time for people to step up and solve problems and to do it intelligently. What do you want to know?
That does, thank you.
Dan, does it finish yours?
Well, I can't anticipate the answer.
Fire away.
I'm happy to give them.
Okay, I'm gonna ask them again,
Good.
just to be fair to everybody else. Are there more than 2 genders?
You know, there's XX and there's XY. and that's 2. How that is expressed is a completely different question.
And would you choose capitalism or socialism?
Well, the academic consensus is that the pure form of either one is doomed. And so I don't accept either one. But I have a heavy leaning toward capitalism. But I should add that that's big talk coming from somebody who gets Social Security and Medicare.
But we're all guilty to a certain point. Would you favor merit-based over DEI?
Yeah, that's an easy one. I have a strong bias toward merit-based, as long as there is equal access to the system.
I'm gonna follow up my question, and it's not it is a binary, but it's not a binary that actually has multiple different solutions. The question is, if you have a gendered restroom, a girl's restroom, should biological males be allowed to access that girl's restroom or locker room?
I would say no, unless there is a compelling personal reason and an approved plan in place.
So you would support that happening under certain circumstances?
Under certain controlled circumstances, yes.
You got mine all there, so we're good on that.
David?
Almost. Oh, sorry, Craig.
I kind of like this question about the strategic plan as far as our mission and vision statements. Do you need me to read them over again, or were you
What's
familiar?
your specific question?
Yeah, okay. We serve our students by providing educational opportunities to promote academic excellence and a lifelong love of learning. Vision is also, we inspire learners with student-centered education, strengthened by community involvement. What, if anything, would you change regarding that?
I don't see a whole lot of change, but what I found in strategic plans is the need very often, and it's not just school system stuff, this is every business. There's nothing easier than saying, everybody liked the strategic plan, great, let's post it. And then you never look at it again. What I would like to see is a deeper dive into saying things like, well, there's that community piece. What does that really mean? And are we really doing that? And how do we really do that? And, you know, how we are influencing the lives of these students, like taking each piece of that thing and saying, how are we actually—
Join the meeting.
There's nothing wrong with a vision statement. I like it. I think it's great. And I think that by and large, I have very good feelings about the school district. I think it does tremendous things. The 3 kids that I have who came through this district, well, 2 of the 3 became teachers, which I think, I mean, if you want evidence that your teachers and your staff are doing something right, you should do that. I have a daughter and I have to be careful because I'm sure she's tuning in. But if you had asked her when she was a kindergarten student what she wanted to be when she grows up, she would tell you, I'm going to be a kindergarten teacher. And 12 years worth of teachers had their opportunity to change her mind if they weren't good. None of them managed to change her mind. And today she's teaching in this district. So I think you just need to take a deeper dive and say, are we really doing that?
Awesome. Thank you, Dave.
Thank you.
Mr. Wagner.
I'm Jacob Wagner. I would like to first off thank the board for their time this evening and for the time that they've put into being on the board as long as they've been on the board. My wife and I have both gone to Watertown School District from kindergarten all the way on up, and we currently have 5 kids in the district, all the way from 5th grade up to 10th grade. And I guess I just thought that it was time that this opening was available to try for it, to make sure that everything for the kids is available, that it was when I went, that everyone is able to stay to learn, that it's based on education and learning, and that we're not drifting off into different sections and getting away from education. I think that Watertown is a great community. I think it starts at the education system and goes up from there. I think there's a lot of possibility in this town. I think that we do have a good school district. We have amazing teachers. Any issues or help that our kids have needed, the teachers have been there and they've been absolutely wonderful to deal with, and to help. I think that what I can bring to the board is, as a business owner and owning real estate in town and warehouse properties and things like that, is I can help bring my knowledge from running those businesses to help with any issues that we have on the board.
Back to the top, we make it through 5 questions each time, but you just hit mine. That was it. Obviously, you've already answered it. Your strength is your business acumen. I think I just heard you say, so I've already written that one down. I'm done. Fire it away. Go ahead.
Same question. Do you need me to repeat it?
No, I'm good.
Just want to make sure we're fair to everybody.
I guess what I would say is that if I feel some way about something, that it's come from a life experience, that I've seen it, and if I feel that way, I would share with the board where that experience was and what led me to that belief. And hopefully that they would, if they didn't have experience in that, they would see where the point that I'm coming from, that I had the real world experience in it, and that hopefully that they would see my side of it.
I'll just go next.
Okay.
And I'll simplify it. Do you believe that biological males should be allowed in girls' restrooms?
Absolutely not.
Thank you.
Jacob.
Yes,
Jacob was a former student of mine, weren't you, Jacob?
long time
A
ago.
long time ago.
That pains me to have to say that it was a long time ago, but yes.
Jacob, do you believe there's more than 2 genders?
No,
Okay. Would you choose capitalism or socialism?
capitalism.
And are you in favor of a merit-based system or diversity, equity, and inclusion?
Merit-based system.
Thank you.
What do you feel is the biggest opportunity we have here in the Watertown district?
Biggest opportunity I would say is that we have excellent teachers to help us get in the direction that we need to. And I think that the size of the district helps, from the point that if you want to do something, that if there's 1 or 2 with a lot of people in one building, that even if only 2% want to do something, that might be still a nice sized group that we can focus on something that they want to do, whether that's shop classes or things along those lines.
Okay. Lori, Fire, Mike.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Last name, Steve Good.
Good evening. My name's Steve Good. I have 4 children that have gone through the Watertown School District. My last one going through the school district now. I've graduated 3. They have survived our teachers. I'm just kidding. They have made it through. And as a matter of fact, the 3 oldest that are currently out of school, 2 of them are studying to be teachers with the 3rd in Whitewater, looking to go into education as well. As many know, my wife is an administrator at the high school. She started off as a special education teacher there. Sorry, Sarah. I meant that she's in administration and not special ed. However, she has been in education for over 20 years. I have gotten to see through her eyes how education is, and seen it through several different school districts. For myself, I've been a football coach. I've been a wrestling coach in multiple districts, including Watertowns, and have gotten to see a educational system through that lens as well. Oftentimes, coaches are asked to mentor our athletes to make sure that they're getting a good education, that they're student athletes, the key word being student first and then the athlete. Throughout the years, what I feel that I bring is that I work in a field that you have to be able to compromise. The field I work with individuals with intellectual disabilities. I've been doing that for over 28 years. I have moved up the ladder in that field, and it's not necessarily because of diversity. It is because of my skill set and what I bring. I'm naturally a leader. I've been asked to serve on different boards, and when I got asked to serve on the board, I did it reluctantly, because I didn't want to get into some of the drama that was on the boards. After I joined the board, at one board, our Watertown Aquatic Teams board, I came in as the vice president, and our president quickly stepped down, and I was thrust into the president role, of which I didn't want the president role at first. And 5 years later, I was still doing it. At which point I worked on communication, because not everybody agrees, right? We're not all going to agree. And if we do, it would be a very boring place, in my opinion. I feel that with our differences of opinion, our differences and where we grew up, the differences that we are naturally with, that can strengthen a group more than tear a group apart, as long as you're willing to ask questions and find out where people stand. As all other 7 candidates have answered certain questions, I'm going to answer them in my opening here. I grew up, my dad was a Greek Orthodox priest. Some of you may remember my dad when he was walking around town. He was the guy in all black. Everybody looked at him funny, and it was like he's crazy because he's walking everywhere. But when I grew up in my house, we had 2 sexes. There was a male and a female. My dad also had an open mind about that, however, and said that people, he's like, when they turn 18, they can make up their mind. And he would tell me, till I'm 18, I'm a boy if I want to be a boy, and that's what I'm going to stay until I'm 18, and then I can decide. Our children, I feel, do need to be fostered at where they're at and met where they're at. We can't always predict where our kids are going. Obviously, how do I know that? Just go back a couple months ago and think about Abundant Life. You had a child who was considered transgender and not only took their own life, but the life of somebody else. Not sure people were meeting her where she was at. That's just kind of where it is. For the capitalism or socialism, I have always been for capitalism. I think people should make as much money as they can, when they can, how they can, legally. And I also think for the last question of a merit-based system, I would be all for a merit-based system as long as there are some metrics put in place that it's equal for everybody. One of the things that we talked about in the listening session last week was when you talk about test scores. So test scores come back, school districts compare those test scores, and the test scores aren't necessarily representative of what is in your school, because some of your students are learning disabled, etc. And those scores bring you down because they're not doing very well. However, we'll tout that they're there, and people wonder what we're going to do and how we're going to make things better. So those numbers aren't always comparative. So if you're going to go to a merit-based system, it has to be something that you can compare and make sure that across the board, all teachers fall under the same metrics. I will end with, over the years, I have 3 daughters. So I know how people get upset about what genders in what locker room, yet I have yet to hear anybody say, you know, we always hit the hot button. What if a male's and a female? We never talk about a female being in a male's at all. We don't bring that up. And I don't know if it's because we don't think it's going to happen, we don't think it happens, or we just choose to hit the hot button because we want to hit the hot button. At the end of the day, people use the bathrooms that they should be using. At the end of the day, right now, in our country, they say there's two sexes, male and female. So I think that kind of ends the argument at that. On top of that, the board has already spoken. You've already passed the policy. So I don't think we need to keep hammering that away. At the end of the day, we need to do what's right by our teachers and by our students. And you got to keep moving forward and not get bogged down with arguing in meetings about what everybody's personal belief is. Let's find a way to communicate with each other, move things forward, and do the very best we can for our kids and our teachers. Any other questions?
Craig.
I guess I kept you guessing. Sorry about that. I'll ask the mission vision question again. Mission being, we serve our students by providing educational opportunities to promote academic excellence and a lifelong love of learning. Vision being, we inspire learners with student-centered education strengthened by community involvement. Would you change anything about that?
I think it's pretty inclusive with what you're putting right there. I think what we want to do is have our community help build our school system and help teach our kids, right? At the end of the day, I go to work. I trust that teachers are teaching our kids what they're supposed to be in school. And then after school, I ask my kids, what did you learn today? Now, if you have a teenager, they go, oh, no, you know, but then you dig in and they actually tell you what they've learned in that day. I think part of the community is taking a chance to be a champion for our schools, period.
I'll ask my question. You kind of touched on it, but if you go a little bit more in depth.
Yeah, absolutely.
Your view, you know what it is, right?
Yeah, what I have found and what has worked for me is asking questions. Not just passing judgment, but asking a question. I want to know why you come from that stance. For myself, I am a person, you can ask my wife, I am probably the most neutral person you'll meet because I want to know both sides. I research both sides. I am not somebody who makes a snap decision. I'm going to ask you questions. I'm going to find out where you stand, and then I'm going to try to find somewhere in the middle that we can meet. Is it always going to happen that way? No. But because of the field I work in, I consistently work on finding a win-win situation.
Okay, Steve, I'll just ask the question to make sure you either can state it again or restate it, but your greatest or your best skill or attribute that you'd bring to this board or to this district, if you were appointed or elected to be on this board.
Other than my dry humor, you mean? Okay. I think what I bring to it is, yeah, it's not cupcakes, but it's close, right? I think what I bring to that is that my willingness to work with everybody and see everybody's side and point and then work towards a solution. Keyword is work. I don't want to stall. I want to keep things moving. I'm aware that it's taken some time to just settle on the verbiage that was in the policy that was just passed. Let's figure it out, get a response, and then get it out.
Join the meeting.
Wait long months to get something that could have been done in 2 or 3 meetings and then get it out.
Might ask what's your favorite takedown?
I am
That's the second question.
I happen to like a double leg takedown.
That cannot be your deciding.
You know, I did want to clarify though. I did want to clarify.
Yeah.
Because I appreciate you speaking to it preemptively, but I didn't really hear an answer to my question, which is, should biological males be allowed in girls' locker rooms and bathrooms?
I think To be very perfectly clear, probably not. I don't think there is a reason for it. I think, just like I think there shouldn't be biological girls in a boys' locker room. I think if you're gonna save for one, you need to save for all. And it's not just a boy issue, it is a boy or girl issue. I think the other part of it is if we're gonna tackle it, and you're gonna tackle that particular issue, make sure it's an issue before you tackle it. Don't create an issue.
Well, you did answer my questions.
Yep.
But I don't think it's fair to Missy that you had 6 people in front of you. So I'm gonna give you another question then.
Okay.
Since you're a coach
Mhm.
and a wrestling coach, obviously the girls are wrestling girls right now and the boys are wrestling boys.
Mhm.
But it could be that a team shows up without another girl to wrestle. Would you have that girl wrestle a boy?
My daughter has wrestled boys.
And,
She's done very well.
okay,
So
And-
for her, and I've had girls on my wrestling team up until the last 2 years, girls did wrestle boys. It was not always equal. I'll admit that. Boys are physically stronger. It's just the physics, right? Men are stronger than women. That's just, and it's body size, not necessarily, I'm saying all the other stuff, just physics, they're bigger and stronger. But they have had to wrestle them, and my girls are usually tougher than most of my boys sometimes, so.
I had a girl on my 9th grade football team. And she never went out after that year because it was tackle football and she was getting beat up.
Mhm.
And what about football and what about, contact sports like?
I have had, where I've coached at, girls have not played. I've
Join the
had-
meeting.
We just played a team this year that had one of their girls starting at, I think, a quarterback, on the varsity. So it has happened. I think that, one of the athletes that my daughter looks up to and other girls look up to is Matea Rowe. She used to be a wrestler at Johnson Creek. All 4 years at Johnson Creek, she wrestled boys the entire time. She jokes around now that if she would have had to wrestle girls, she probably would have been a state champion over and over those 4 years. But she would step up to the plate and wrestle them because she loved the sport. So.
Okay. All good? Thank you, Steve.
Thank you.
So I hope I don't have to, first of all, thank you all. All did a great job. Appreciate you coming in. Appreciate you stepping up, sharing us a little bit about yourselves. It was more than what we read in your resumes and your cover letters, so thank you. We're now at the point where we are going to vote. Again, as I stated, it's not a plurality, it's a majority, so we need to get at least 5 of 8. And if it does, we won't be taking any of your names off of the ballot that Lynn will be handing out until it's a 4-4, and then we will try to whittle it down from those 2 candidates of 4-4, unless we can't do that. So stick around and we'll write and turn in and count as fast as we can.
I'll share. You need a pen. You grab some more pen.
Thank you so much.
You just fold them and turn them in. Are you okay with that? I don't know if it matters. When do we actually read the names? Ever? No, we don't. It becomes part of your record.
It is requested.
Okay, not. I didn't think so. Okay, I'll just collect and fold it. Yeah, collect and fold it. And next time Lynn's gonna hand out more than one, so she doesn't have to keep on walking around. Yeah.
Maybe she wants to hear stuff then.
Yeah, or Lynn hand me a bunch and I'll pass them down.
Your label background.
Okay. Oh. Okay, so be careful. There's rounds on the top.
This one's murder.
Upper right-hand corner says the round.
Yeah, Mike, Fred, there's round numbers in the top, so I'm gonna hand you more than one, just don't use them all at once. Or-
We need one. We're done.
That's all round two.
There's not there. We made that name.
Do you have his yet? You don't understand.
We can scan them over to you
Yep.
once we've done.
Round two.
Make sure.
Upper right-hand corner.
Craig, Diana, and Sam, I just handed you the next round and I'll hand you the subsequent one. On the top right is the round we're voting in. So make sure you
Okay,
look
so
at
we're
that.
keeping track of every.
Yeah, we're
single
keeping
round.
track of that of every round.
Gotcha.
So I'm gonna hand you three more here for round three, so it saves Lynn the time. So. That saves Lynn.
Yeah, no, totally. I think that's a good idea.
Round three. So at the bottom.
I should have done.
Yeah. I really don't. It may be.
It's here. Here's round four.
Oh, we're going big.
Well, I'm just.
We're just being,
Getting ahead.
we're being ready. Round four, just in case.
Oh.
Oh, I got extra.
Feel the breeze.
Yes. Permeating through the wall. Yeah.
Ready?
Okay, with no majority vote, these are the candidates and their tallies. Charity Chandler, 2. Steve Good, 0. Caitlin Krieger, 3. Missy Kukan, 1. David Morstad, 1. Jacob Wagner, 1. April Whitty, 0.
You want to do those again, one more time?
Yep. With no majority vote, here's the candidates and their number of tallies. Cherry Chandler, 2. Steve Good, 0. Caitlin Krieger, 3. Missy Kukan, 1. Dave Morstad, 1. Jacob Wagner, 1. April Whitty, 0. We'll have to do round 2.
Top of your page for round 2.
Okay.
Yeah. Somebody could
Post.
Right, I can write my name on the wall.
Yeah.
Really save myself a lot of time here. Whoa. It's not red. Yeah.
You gotta recycle the pages, it's not like she can save them.
Mhm.
So. she'll sign.
Right.
There's no saving of paper.
We already killed the tree.
Exactly.
After round 2, no candidate has a majority vote. The candidates and their tallies in order are Charity Chandler, 3. Steve Good, 0. Caitlin Krieger, 4. Missy Kukan, 0. David Morstad, 1. Jacob Wagner, 0. April Whitty, 0. We need round 3.
Yeah.
Round three, with no candidate in the majority, the tallies are as follows. Charity Chandler, 4 votes. Steve Good, 0 votes. Caitlin Krieger, 4 votes. Missy Kukan, 0 votes. David Moristad, 0 votes. Jacob Wagner, 0 votes. April Whitty, 0 votes. We have a 4-4 tie.
We'll do it again. Now only picking of those two candidates.
Only picking of the 2 candidates. Charity Chandler or Caitlin Krieger. After round 4, no candidate with the majority, we are still in a 4-4 tie between Charity Chandler and Caitlin Krieger.
Andrew, round 5.
School again.
Oh, that's just an initial.
Just to mess it up.
Start over. Your assignments.
After round 5, no candidate has a majority vote. We stand tied between Charity Chandler and Caitlin Krieger, 4 votes each.
This is time number 3. 3. We're going again on round 6.
Back now, right?
After round 6, with no candidates having the majority vote, we stand tied between Charity Chandler and Caitlin Krieger, 4 votes each.
Okay, we have 2 more times to break it.
Time will tell.
Check the signatures on
Yeah,
those.
yeah, you better check those.
Yep, guess I don't have an extra one of those.
It's just a sign that select one. Yeah. Just go look who's there at the end of
After round 7, no candidate with majority vote. We stand tied, Charity Chandler, 4 votes, Caitlin Krieger, 4 votes.
Okay, we're now on round 8 at the top of your page.
Round 8.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. If I had a heater in mine, I'd give.
I would have offered you mine, but I'm just mine the day.
You gentlemen.
After round 8, no candidate with majority vote. We stand tied, Charity Chandler, 4 votes, Caitlin Krieger, 4 votes.
Okay. I'm gonna declare a deadlock on this vote. Now, again, read from what I've read before to make sure that everybody in the room is aware of how we're gonna do this, as well as to get your affirmation that you'd still like to be considered. Each board member will be able to either nominate or second a nomination, but not both. Nominees must receive at least a first and a second nomination. Nominations must be made from any remaining previously qualified candidate who wishes to still be considered, not just finalists. So, I guess I'll ask each of you, Jacob, interested? Yes. Missy? Steve? Dave?
Yes.
Charity? Caitlin?
Yes.
And April?
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. I will now open the floor to nominations. Once again, you only get a first or a second, not both. Do I hear any nominations? Lori?
Nominate Caitlin Krieger.
Caitlin Krieger, do I hear a second?
I second.
Second. Second. We'll have to get those on a piece of paper somewhere.
I'm working on it.
Yeah. Okay, Sam?
Yeah, I'd like to nominate Jacob Wagner.
Jacob, I hear a first,
I second.
second. Awesome. Other nominations?
I'll keep it interesting since we had a 4-4 tie. I nominate Charity.
Charity? Second. Second. Mike,
I'll nominate Steve Good. I haven't nominated anybody or spoke at the names.
I will second that.
Did someone second?
I did.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I missed it.
Charity and.
Want to audit the hat?
It doesn't have a false.
We'll audit it afterwards too.
Yeah.
Yeah. You wanna pick? I don't wanna pick my boss.
Where'd Addison go? Where's the student rep?
Oh, I see here. Ready?
Do I have one?
Charity Chandler.
Again, before,
Hold on, we still
Yep.
have to do business.
okay,
The other three candidates left in the hat were Caitlin Krieger, Jacob Wagner, Steve Good.
again, not just my sincerest thanks, but I'm going to speak on behalf of the full board, which I don't normally do. I usually defer that to Jared, but I'm just overwhelmed with your interest in joining this ragtag crew, as well as getting beat up on a regular basis on Facebook. So it takes a lot of personal fortitude and willingness to serve the community. And I hope to see you at another time, in another session, at another event, also out in those seats. So, or at my favorite hangout, which you might be able to find me at. Either way, again, thank you all. As far as Charity, congratulations. We do not seat you immediately tonight, as there are board matters that that we have to attend to. Lynn will walk you through the process of joining the board, oaths and other activities, plus board orientation, which you'll get from a multitude of people in this building. So welcome, and thank you all in the public for coming and your sincere interest in the operations of the district. We appreciate it.
Like to speak. I'd also like to add this. First of all, I see many faces that I've seen many, many times. I also see some new faces today that I haven't seen. And it really warms my heart to see all of you here who care about our students. There's plenty of ways to lead in this district, not just at our board. And if you ever want a chance to have that or any kind of discussion with me, please call. I'd love to talk with you, ask you about your thoughts and opinions. Many of you have taken me up on that offer before. That offer is always open. You're always welcome in my office or anywhere else you'd like to meet. And I could talk about ways that you can help lead this organization from wherever seat you sit. I appreciate you. Thank you. Need a motion?
Volunteer run for the Jigsaw March 14, 15.
Okay, no,
We need
close
a
to
motion.
public comment, close to public comment.
We need a motion. We need a motion resolution.
To fill the vacant seat by.
Which number am I in here?
D.
D.
Okay. Come on.
5D.
Okay. I will now accept a motion to, that's right, enact the results of the voting and nomination process and put Charity in that seat.
So Fred and Mike,
That's a first and a second from Fred and Mike, yes. Roll call vote, please.
Dan Boltner,
Yes.
Craig Wortman, Mike Higgins,
Yes.
Lori Heller, Fred Yant,
Yes.
Diana Johnson, Sam O'Neill,
Yes.
and David Schrader.
Yes, and the motion carries.
That being said.
Do we?
We take a recess?
Yeah, we're gonna take a short recess, about 5 minutes or as necessary. I know that somebody yelled at me for not following parliamentary procedure last time. Was that you, Diana? Did I not?
It was my daughter, actually. Technically, there's supposed to be a motion, whatever that was with it.
I heard Fred and Mike.
Recess?
They Fred and Mike. Yeah, yeah, done.
That's not true. The president can offer.
Voice acclamation.
The way it went, whatever, it didn't follow the parliament,
Oh,
whatever.
parliamentary question.
No, I think people had just gotten up and.
Okay, I will call it back into session unless I need a first and second by our parliamentarian over there. The one thing that I did want to address and just mention because it came up, it was a question in the recess. And Jared, I believe you've answered this once before. Given that Charity is on the April ballot, do you have the scenario of what happens for the board makeup if she is elected to an at-large or to that, if she is elected to fill Lori's seat, my seat, or Craig's seat, who are also up?
Yep. Yeah, so if a seated candidate who's been appointed wins in an election, they can choose to either stay on in the appointed seat and give up the elected seat, or they can choose the elected seat and give up the appointed seat. Either way, that if a candidate were to do that, we would have another appointment that we would have to make, either for the newly elected seat or for the one seat that we had appointed previously.
And in either of those situations, they would only last because it happens before the last Tuesday in November. That appointment in, let's call it May, would last till the following April until they're back lined up with the 3-3-3 rotation.
That's correct.
So if it's Tina's seat, the one that Charity was just appointed in, that would be the natural conclusion of that. No, it wouldn't, because I did 2 more years left on it. So either way, we're going to be doing at least 4 in the ballot if Charity were to win the general election this April.
That's correct.
The following April would have to have at least 4 on it to get us lined back up again. So it goes. Okay, then moving on, report, superintendent report.
So as you can see up there, we've got some children eating breakfast. It's the breakfast crew helpers as well as the safety patrollers helping some other students. Just thought it was a nice little picture to start. Ooh, he's not. Oh, I gotta turn this on. There we go. Next up, we've got a celebration, just highlighting our DECA program. DECA is a high school organization that prepares students for careers in marketing, finance, hospitality, and management. They have competitive events every year. They touch on like real world kind of decision making and leadership. I want to just do a shout out to Ella Mock. She took first place overall, state qualifier. Megan Doherty and Alexa, excuse me, Alexa Musa, both received medals for being finalists. Saren Johnson received a medal for achieving a high score on the test portion of the competition. I just want to congratulate not only them, but our DECA program in general. They do a really good job each year. Another opportunity to go to a Burke briefing comes up on March 3rd. We just had one. There were 15 community members in attendance on, I think, one of, if not the coldest night of the year so far. So that was amazing. I thought for sure we were going to have very few people, and we ended up with 15. And it was taped, and it will be on the public Watertown TV Chasing channel coming up. I don't have an exact date yet, so I know that they're working on that film. We have other opportunities. We had several 5th and 8th graders that participated in the math meet earlier this month at UW Whitewater. It was sponsored by Southern Lakes Advanced Learners Network. Students competed in many different events, and of course, enjoyed Pizza Ranch in Watertown on the way out. Trivia night coming up this weekend, February 1st on Saturday night. We have a near record setting number of tables that have been sold, 110, I believe, so far. And we're still looking for people who want to attend. So if you don't have a team together yet, get one together and have fun on Saturday night. Another opportunity, RMS held its annual parent information night for incoming 6th graders. What I enjoy about it is out of the 185 expected students, 120 were there. represented during the parent information meeting night. That's really actually pretty high. So our reach out efforts are doing really well. And to understand that many students showed up was outstanding. RMS counselors also presented middle school course registration to the 5th grade students at their schools between January 13th and 22nd. The high school held its freshman preview night to the area 8th graders on January 16th. It was an awesome night. I got to be there as a parent. Wonderful course registration was talked about. They went over a bunch of stuff about clubs, had students go on a self-guided tour, and the incoming freshmen were super excited. I just watching them have conversations with their incoming teachers, meeting new faces from private school students, and mingling with them. I think it was just a really good night. Course registration for 2025 incoming freshmen is due January 27th. That's today, right? Yep. And I know that our counselors were out and about today at the middle school helping register those who maybe didn't put their course selections in yet. No school February 10th because it's my birthday. Nah, it's actually staff development day, but it is my birthday on February 10th. Referendum focus group dates of February 5th and February 6th. We have different dates and times for those focus group dates. If you have not responded yet to our deputy clerk, Lynn Linskins, about when you're able to attend as a board member, please do so. Committee board meetings are up there. February 3rd is a special board meeting. That's where you get to get some more professional development on the superintendent evaluation model, as well as being able to review the basically ending of the last 18 months and the setting of the goals that are coming up. And then educational services is on the 11th. 12th is policy. And there's no meeting for planning coming up that we have scheduled yet. February 17th, human resources, fiscal management, and so on. Any questions?
Okay. Well done. We're now into reports. We're going to go in the order of B through F here, but I am going to interject briefly with the board chair meeting, just so I set the stage for these other reports. I think most of us were in attendance, well, yeah, all but one, I think. And we discussed how we're going to participate with each other at committees, who's taking the minutes, how are the action items going to be tracked, how to keep time and keep it on time, and then oral summary at the full board meeting. So with that, I'm going to lead into the Ed Services report, and I'm going to simply say that the minutes are accurate as written. And then I will go on a little bit more and say that there's several action items. Those are all accurate. The one that is probably the most, I don't want to say interesting, but at least involves the most parties is that Jared had brought to us the fact that our policies didn't, nor did we, on a recurring basis, review the curriculum as intentionally as we should have been. That was a policy that Neola has, and that got put on the back burner at policy as it wasn't right for Lynn and Jared to work on it as we're trying to adopt that book. But Ed Services has the bandwidth for that activity and has agreed to take up that effort in that department. Now, you will see resolutions on tonight's docket for course book approval. Those did not go through the process that we will be using in the future, but we have to start somewhere and we have to run middle school. So although it may not be perfect, that's that resolution is out there. And then the new policy, after Ed Services takes a hack at it and then brings it well, probably works on it predominantly and then double checks it against anything policy may want to weigh in on it. We'll be able to start developing a backlog of courses that should be reviewed prior to the next school year, 50 or 18 months out. So give the administration and staff plenty of time to take a look at courses, because we all know that those course books are typically out there between December and January. So you can't be asking for changes in February for the following September, you have to be asking changes in February for something that's roughly 16 months away. But that's all going to be work that will be done in subsequent periods, starting with Ed Services. That's correct.
Then why are we voting on it?
We have to have a book. I mean, if,
But-
okay, we could, okay,
We haven't voted on it in the past.
good point. We could not vote and it would just be what it is. Fair enough. I mean, it's a valid question. Jared wanted a resolution on it, and I'm not trying to make it seem like Jared and I were disagreement. I
You-
don't
you
have,
can
I don't
defer
have a
to the
preference.
Administration, what you want to defer to the administration, that's fine.
Yeah, we can just table the resolution and then the book would still exist as is.
Personally, I would prefer that.
Okay. I guess you could make a motion to take it off the table when that resolution comes up.
Table it, not take it off.
Yeah. I heard that that's different in overseas. You table it, and take it off. Okay, otherwise I would try to be more succinct with that, saying the minutes are accurate as written, but I wasn't able to do it this time. So, any questions on those minutes? Okay, great. Next up is, I believe, fiscal, was it? Yes, fiscal.
I reviewed the minutes, they've been dispersed, they're accurate. The only thing you're gonna see coming up is the resolution for the updated cost to purchase the transit van. It did come out a little bit higher because they had to remove 2 seats, and that's per state law, so. Any questions?
Okay, next, human resources of Mike and Margaret, I'll let you co-answer that one if you want. Mike was filling in as temporary chair. Until we appoint a new chair position for that, which I'll be doing between now and, probably the next week or two. So, Mike, go ahead.
Ready to roll, minutes are accurate and Margaret's working hard. Any questions? I got you in there.
That's my type of minutes, Mike. Okay, and by the way, other chairs, by no means do you have to follow anything that's succinct. We're just practicing here. We're just seeing what seems to work. So, go ahead, planning. Good luck. Yeah.
Kick me off next.
I gave you an out.
The reason planning is different is the minutes are as accurate as recorded, except as you'll notice in the minutes, it does state that I had meetings in 2 separate instances where I would give an update to the board. And so that's where this then comes, the update to the board. So I cannot keep it to 5 or 10 seconds, sorry. So the first meeting occurred with Tim Couture regarding the superintendent evaluation process, that dates process. And with Tim in our meeting, if you recall from planning, we typically will take the common themes that have been discussed over time, and we kind of ratify those before Jared makes his goals. But due to the fact that we've struggled to find dates that work within the process, that would have pushed us back to goal setting in April at the earliest, and that's too late, too long. So the committee did state that if there was no major hiccup in terms of the board leadership sharing those common themes, if you go ahead and have those goals ready for us sooner as opposed to later. And so he said, yep, that would not be a problem. So we went with that route. He also suggested coming in and walking us through that on February 3rd as a board development piece. So not only will we go through the goals, but he will begin our board development in the dates process, starting at us all at that starting point, so we can kind of move through it together. So I made the executive decision at that point. Yeah, that makes sense, rather than go through and finalize a process from the past 18 months, looking in the rearview mirror, and then trying to start something new in April or May or whatever it is, that we'll all get on board starting in February. So then we'll kind of be on a better timeline with someone from the outside helping us go through the process the way it should be. So the minutes were accurate as per the meeting, but the way the meeting will go then on February 3rd is not accurate in the minutes, because we're going to spend just 5 minutes or so on those common themes. And then we're going to move into the process of goal setting. And that's where we should be anyway. So yes, we have to leave the minutes as they were because that was what happened there, but understand that there is a change and there will be information forthcoming where you'll get that more detailed. The second meeting occurred with Drew Howick just this last week regarding the board evaluation survey. One thing that we discussed in planning is that the board evaluation survey is more than just us checking on how we're doing. According to our Neola processes, it has an effect on the superintendent evaluation. It has an effect on the district assessment of goals. And so where we are is at very much an infancy stage of it. How do we move to those next steps where we're supposed to be writing goals for ourselves and objectives and checking in with those? We're not there yet. So rather than me say, hey, I think we should this, or I think we should that, consulted Drew, where do you think we should go? Where do you think our next steps would be? Will you help us guide in that process? Because we did come to an agreement on our collective commitments. We did come to agreement that we want to be a higher functioning board. So what steps are we going to take to get there? So Drew has volunteered to come in and help us with that process and the next steps. But again, we struggle to find common dates and common times to meet. So therefore, Drew will be coming in at our next planning meeting in March. That's just the natural place to have it work. And those that want to come and be a part of that, we typically have 7 or 8 of us at the planning meetings anyway. So it just made sense to start there. So we will look at the next steps. There is, what are our next steps with the common commitments? Do those become part of our survey? Do we have a conversation of some of the things I heard at convention? There's a school perception survey. He's going to help give us guidance. Where do we take those next steps so we're not doing it blindly? Because our ultimate goal, how do we become a better and more high functioning board? And how do I work together to move the needle in terms of student achievement? Because those are ultimately our goals, and he's going to help us with that. Any questions on those two? Those were just the things that kind of deviated off, but it still kind of came back.
Actually appreciate your detailed explanation, so.
Thank you.
Okay.
I said I could talk just that long. Thanks, Greg.
We'll find a middle ground, Craig. Sorry.
Just about the minutes, is the student engagement, is that on for tonight to vote on the agenda?
No, it's not.
Okay, I just didn't know if we needed it, because it says that.
Yeah. At first, we didn't know if we would have it completed,
The changes.
right? They
Sure.
did get it completed, but then we looked at, how late the meeting
Yeah,
is
yeah,
gonna.
no, it's fine. Okay.
Yeah,
It's on February.
just as
So
a,
sorry, due to time.
yeah,
No,
due to
thank-
time
no,
on the front end,
No, thank you, because that changes the minutes.
to further
Yeah.
answer that, the other 20 minutes of everybody's best time of their life was going to be getting the audit tonight. And so I preemptively took that off the agenda. And then the other one was after consulting with Jared and Jason that the student engagement survey wasn't time critical. And if there was going to be a lengthy discussion on that, I thought that we could push that off 1 month as well. So that is where I overruled the agenda because it wasn't time critical to do that.
So then do we need to adjust the minutes because it says that it would be on? That's
You probably don't need to adjust the minutes.
You don't
but
need to
as
adjust
far
the
as an
minutes
action
because that
item,
was the decision that
the
planning
decision-
made.
From there. I just
It,
wanted
it's
to make
just, it
sure.
was overruled, by time and product.
Thank you for.
Good
noting.
question.
Yeah,
though.
I just wanted to make sure I didn't get my.
So, February 3rd, are they gonna do, is that gonna include the online dates tool?
So we'll
Yes.
all have our stuff there. We'll all get initial looks. He's gonna walk us through that. And then from that point, we have access to that 24/7. So yes.
Good.
And that meeting is in closed session.
Okay, anything else for planning?
There was a subcommittee meeting as well. Those
Continue.
minutes are accurate as stated.
Okay, hey, there you go. Policy.
I do have permission to go a little bit long.
You don't need permission.
Yeah, a lot of people were in attendance. The meeting was held on Monday, the 13th. The meeting minutes are accurate as indicated. We did discuss about filling the board vacancy policy for clarification, and it worked. We have somebody nominated or appointed to the board. We did have discussion about 2 particular policies that we were seeking some input from the board as a whole. Specifically, policy 5855, student attendance at school events, that states that pre-high school students will be accompanied by a parent or adult chaperone throughout the duration of the event, basically. And that is a change from our standing practice of allowing, students to attend those particular events without a chaperone. However, it does stem it does devolve into a lot of discipline issues, and it's kind of out of control at the middle school level, particularly. So that is a policy change, more or less.
What number
And
was that? 5-8?
that's 5855. Perhaps something to think about for the moment. Yes, go ahead.
If we're gonna get administrative guidelines and how we're gonna enforce that?
Yeah, I don't know if we'll have to go as far as guidelines, but there definitely will be procedures in place on, informing parents and other things. We do realize that this is a departure from, current practice. Many other school districts, are doing what we're proposing, which is to make sure that there's a parent or guardian, in place, for anybody under high school age. And we are seeing a lot of uptick in a lot of behavior stuff, either at the event or surrounding the event.
Communication is gonna be key in that, because if a parent comes and drops their kid off, and then we say, turn them away, at the entrance, and their parents aren't there, we could have an issue with that too, and they're irate parents. So.
Keep in mind also that this is when the Neol policy book is complete.
Well,
So
I'm thinking like football next year.
Right.
Yeah, it would start with next year's sports, so we
Yeah.
would have a long runway to tell people this is the change in the intent.
Right.
And I just want to clarify, because in the policy, it says adult chaperone, yet in our conversation, we just use the word guardian. So we are talking adult chaperone, right? So if I show up with my basketball team of 10, that's legit. I am the chaperone. I am overseeing and I'm responsible for those 10, right? Okay.
And the second policy that we were seeking, the policy committee was seeking some board insight on was policy 7530.01, and it's the first version of that. That's the cell phone allowance, which would basically provide some sort of a stipend or reimbursement for cell phone usage of key staff members who are required to be able to be receiving phone calls, in kind of outside of regular business hours type of situation, that may result in a slight increase of an expense to the district for the usage. I guess some of the questions I had, again, related to some sort of administrative guideline to that when it comes to what that looks like for admin and what costs the business administration would allow, and like what kind of criteria that would be defined in that.
What kind of a plan?
What kind of
are
a
we
plan?
talking about?
Right.
I'm wondering if there's enough, do we have a large enough staff that would be part of this, that we could work out some kind of deal with carrier to get discounts or anything like that?
Maybe we're kind of on the edge of what that might be. Just working through that in previous districts. And it would really come down to working with Margaret on who are the qualifying ones. And then also working through our business office to say, what is the qualifying expense? Right? And then after that, seeing is there a place that would give us a deal based on our information.
Say stipend, do we need, are we looking to provide them a secondary cell phone that they would use only for district purposes? Or are we looking to offset a cost that they would use their own phone for?
I think the policy entertains
Both.
both, as I recall, both versions, no double dipping, obviously, but it does entertain administrators choosing one or the other.
Yeah, not just administrators, there's other
people who would be non-administrators who
Right.
need to have a
Covered-
cell phone.
Covered numbers.
Yeah.
Subject to, any sort of, public records or anything for employees where we may want to go towards giving them a secondary phone rather than making their personal materials available.
I would be happy to entertain it either way. Here's the thing, if we're providing a stipend, it provides us, through that stipend, contractually an easier, ask for, their cell phone company to do that because we are in a contract with their provider. Well, I mean, not their provider, but them through their provider, right? So that's why we're doing this. We're making sure and ensuring that we have access to any content. And if they're doing it on their personal cell phone and we're not, part of that, it gets a lot more difficult. We would have to go through legal channels, get a, police department involved and all that.
Yeah, my concern is that they're doing it on the person. So, yeah. We could go on.
We'll address that at policy for HR.
I did want to clarify that both of these particular policies are on first read for tonight, and unless somebody has a major concern that those should be referred back to policy at the moment, you have another opportunity to bring that up. Otherwise, if there's, we'll just plan on moving forward with those. The meeting adjourned at, well, was there any other questions or concerns?
I have one.
Yes.
Can you give me a 30-second or less synopsis on 7440.02, that smart monitoring equipment? What is it? Where do we have it? Where do we use it?
Those are great questions. I think that the district has the opportunity to possibly utilize those types of technologies in the future.
So it's futuristic, it's not.
Yeah.
Okay, that's perfect. It puts steps into place for the future. I wasn't certain that we had that to start with. And look, that was like 3 seconds.
Sure.
Okay, any other, you done, Craig? Got it?
I am
Good.
done. We adjourned at 7:48. And our next meeting is Wednesday, February 12th. And
Regular start time.
At the regular start time.
That was just-
Perfect. We are now on to the consent agenda 9363, which covers the minutes, committee summaries, staffing, approval of bills, first read of several policies, second read of several policies. Do I hear a motion?
Second.
Mike and Fred, any discussion on items 7A through F? Okay, Lynn, roll call, please.
Dan Boatner,
Yes.
Craig Wortman.
Yes.
Mike Higgins.
Yes.
Lori Holland.
Yes.
Fred Yant.
Yeah.
Diana Johnson.
Yes.
Sam Oinio.
Yes.
David Schrader.
Yes. Okay, action items, resolution 9364. Be resolved that the declaration of the following candidates for the Board of Education be certified and placed on the ballot in the following order for the spring election to be held on April 1st, 2025. This is when the drawing occurred, January 8th, 2025, Educational Service Center, pin
Yeah.
15. Drawing place for ballots. The order will be number 1, Tammy D. Fournier, 2, Carl E. Schwarzy, 3, David Schrader, 4, Charity Chandler, 5, Craig M. Wortman, 6, Steve Good. The drawing was conducted by Cheryl Hollitz, Executive Assistant to the Director of Curriculum Instruction, Angel Vandersteeg, Executive Assistant to the Director of Innovation, and witness was Lynn Linskin. Do I have a motion?
Second.
Second. Craig, that means Sam, voice acclamation vote, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Resolution 9365, be resolved that Watertown Unified School District Board of Education proposes no limitation on regular education seats for 2025-2026 school year for grades 4K through 12. Be it further resolved that the Watertown Unified School District Board of Education approves 0 special education open enrollment seats for the 2025-2026 school year. A wait list for special education students will be kept on file. Do I have a motion? Fred, Dan, second. Discussion, or Sarah, perhaps give some backstory. Craig, which one you want to go first? Craig or Sarah?
Go for it.
He asked you like.
I was just gonna ask for the rationale behind, the zero education, special education open enrollment seats. I feel that's a departure from, past administration, specifically on that one, but, no.
No, last year was 0 as well.
Zero, I mean, prior to you.
Prior to. you
Yep,
coming.
the year previous to that was 0. There was something in an 18 to 21-year-old
Okay.
transition program.
Okay.
Truth is, we are at capacity when you do a factor scale of where our students are. When you have a student that requires specialized services and supports, it's not just one student, right?
Right.
It could be a 1.75 or a 2.75 or a 3.75 student factor. And right now, our system is full. Our teachers do a phenomenal job of meeting the needs of our students every day. When you see caseloads as 15 students,
Mhm.
that could actually mean 30 students or more. And so right now, we are at that place. We did all of the calculations, as you have to justify being able to say 0. And like most school districts in the state of Wisconsin, we have closed that
Sure.
to open enrolled students at this time.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. I
Yeah.
just, there, I'd like to think that it was about two or 3 years ago, when there was a different discussion that was had, and, I appreciate the clarification, and it makes sense. So,
I appreciate the question. It's great.
Do remember our special ed population has grown.
Yeah.
absolutely, and if anything, more help is needed.
Okay, any additional discussion on that? Okay, Lynn, roll call vote, please.
Dan Boltner,
Yes.
Craig Wortman,
Yes.
Mike Higgins,
Yes.
Lori Holland,
Yes.
Fred Yant,
Yes.
Diana Johnson.
Yes.
Sam Alwinio,
Yes.
David Schrader.
Yes. And the motion carries. Next one, resolution 9366. Be it resolved that the Watertown Unified School District Board of Education approve the 2025-2026 RMS course book as presented to the Educational Service Committee on January 14th of 2025. Do I have a motion?
I move to table until such a date.
Probably gonna need a motion first, and then you can move to table. Is that?
Yeah,
Yep. I'll give you that opportunity, and
Motion second,
I
discussion too.
just waiting for you, Craig. I got my Robert's rules right here, just to make sure, but. Yeah. No. Yeah, so I got one from Mike. Got a second from Fred. Okay, discussion. Now you can move to table.
table it to,
Okay,
as such a date, as when.
yeah, and once again, I wouldn't know this, Craig, except for that's why I keep this, is that you can postpone to a later time, we can table, or we can postpone indefinitely. And I would go so far as to say postpone indefinitely until it comes up again after we enact the policy. So the motion would be more likely to postpone indefinitely because we don't want it floating out there on the table.
Yeah.
But,
Do you need a second for that?
I do.
I will.
Basically, tabling it kills it. Postponing means it comes back. Maybe.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, I just don't want, you're technically not allowed to table things you don't intend to.
Bring
So can we
back.
still have discussion on why we're tabling?
No.
No, it is open for discussion.
But
There you go.
hold on.
Yeah, no,
The motion, there is open for discussion, but there is a motion out to table it.
So we have
So
to.
we have
No.
to-
No, there's a motion out to postpone, I thought.
just a second.
Which is
Craig
different.
was postponed indefinitely was first by Craig, second by Sam, and it is open for discussion.
Postpone indefinitely.
Postpone and discussion. Yeah, yes, but tabling is not.
Sorry.
Indefinitely postpone is.
So yeah,
It
yes,
is, so-
right, postpone, I will
Okay.
clarify,
Yep.
my motion is to postpone indefinitely.
Got it.
Great, yep.
So
I'm
then, yes,
still learning. The
Yes.
way you looked at it, I'm like, oh.
Me too.
no.
Real quick, just clarification, I did not motion and second, that's what it says up there, just making sure.
In the beginning you
No,
did.
I'm doing both for both.
Oh, you did. Oh, I'm sorry, in the okay, who seconded?
Fred.
That would be.
Okay, sorry about that.
I know, right?
Sorry.
Okay, so your question on the.
So my question is, what would be the rationale to postponing it indefinitely as opposed to taking that vote now?
A good question. I feel like, when there's a course book in place and the rationale that was given at the last meeting was that, by putting a board approval on the course book, the board is putting an approval on not only the courses that are being offered, but some of the course material that's being offered as well. And at this point, I'm not comfortable with that particular, approval, knowing that there are some courses that haven't been reviewed, like human growth and development, for quite some time. I feel is grossly out of compliance with state rate requirements, and I feel like there needs to be a review process in place. I would feel much more comfortable approving a course book after I know that there's a process in place and some of those courses are reviewed. So at this point in time, I don't feel comfortable saying
You don't feel
the
comfortable
board should bless this sort of.
putting the approval on it, even though those courses and things are still gonna move forward, whether or not we approve, you just don't, I'm just trying to understand. the
Because
philosophy.
it's a new ask of the administration. They didn't ask for that in the past. They just went
No,
along with the
I
course.
understand it, I just.
So I
but-
didn't feel like putting the cart before the horse was appropriate at this point.
But we are still moving forward with everything, it's just we don't
Yeah.
have.
No, we don't have to vote no. Or some of us don't have to vote no.
Correct.
Or blindly agree to something that I can vote yes,
No,
and
no.
I would be doing it on faith that everything is
Right.
accurate, which puts then me in a potentially compromised position.
But I
because
just wanna make
I
sure that
never
I'm
do.
still clear that we're
Yeah.
still moving 100%,
Yes.
everything is still moving on.
The
as
course
if we
book's still
were
gonna be
going
the
to.
course book as it has been in the past.
And our goal is to have that process up, running and moving.
Throughout this
Through this
year,
year.
before the 26-27
So
school
we
year.
will be voting on it at this time
If there is
next year.
yes, if there are course adjustments between ed service and policy and this full board, we will figure out a way, and that is actually in the ed service action items, a method by which certain curriculum, and we're calling it course book, but what came up in ed services is that course book is typically a title and a brief description. What we're probably really talking about is curriculum, which is if a parent wanted to really dig into what's going to be taught, they're not going to get it from the snippet in the course book. They're going to get it from the one-page curriculum review that says this is what are the topics and the depth at which they're going to be covered. The goal is, Diana, is to be able for any of the 9 of us to be able to review either of the 2 course books and the curriculum accompanying white sheets and say, I'd like this one to be reviewed. Then we have to come up with a mechanism to do that within roughly 9 months. So if we give the board 1 to 2 months in January or February, you only now have that runway till next December to make sure that there's any adjustments before you have to then ratify it approximately a year from today. So we're still between what Neola has, what other sources of methods by which it can be accomplished by boards in Wisconsin, and by what we're trying to actually accomplish, and where Jared's more familiar with coming from his other districts, it's going to be somewhere in between there. And we don't know what that looks like yet, but we know we need it.
Thank you.
And so, yes. Table indefinitely, or excuse me, postpone indefinitely just means really till this time next year. From my perspective. Right.
We postpone this. And it's still gonna go be in use, it just means that the board's not gonna vote on it.
That's correct.
But if we don't postpone it and we vote it down, it means you can't put it in place.
That's correct.
No,
Well, no, if you voted down, then there is no course book.
that's what I mean.
Right, if you
That's
vote
the
it down,
distinction.
there's no course book.
Okay, that's the distinction
Right.
I needed, because if we voted down, it just meant the board didn't approve, but you would still need a course book, and you'd still use it anyway.
What
Then-
I'm hearing is
Which
Craig
is
would
what
like to
happened with high
postpone it, which then puts the
Postpone
action
it
back
on.
on the administration. Basically, you're deferring your ability to,
We're postponing the approval of the course book, we're not postponing the course book.
Correct.
All right,
yes,
that, I'm good,
That's
we
why I
need to
had-
make sure we have that
That's
clarification.
why I
Yeah.
had to make.
yeah.
Yeah,
Essentially, inaction from the board gives the action to the administration.
yep.
Right.
And I needed to have that distinction between that and us just not approving it, because you needed to, that would have created a void for you.
Yes.
I needed to know that, all right.
The position that we have been in from past practice, was
that the board was never given the consideration of the course booklet in the past. It was always done under the purview of the administration. My view of that is that that probably wasn't following the spirit of the state law, which gives you full authority over the curriculum, including which courses are being taught or not taught in any given semester, right? That has been deferred to the administration for a very long time without question. My question is, do you want to continue operating that way? And if,
Well, the answer is Neola policy will dictate, or excuse me, our new policy will answer that question.
right,
That's not the question tonight.
no.
The question is,
no,
we're not in a position to
that's-
vote
That's what
it.
brought this forward.
That's what
right?
brought this forward.
Mhm.
Okay, so we had a first and a second on the postpone indefinitely. That was by by Craig and Sam. We've had the discussion. In which case, any additional discussion on that? Okay, I will now take a roll call vote, and it only requires a majority in order to postpone it indefinitely. Lynn, please call the roll.
Dan Voltner,
Yes.
Craig Wortman.
Yes.
Mike Higgins.
Yes.
Lori Holland.
Yes.
Fred Yant,
Yes.
Diana Johnson.
Yes.
Sam Oinio.
Yes.
David Schrader.
Yes. And the motion is postponed indefinitely, so 9336 is now back into administrative hands until we can get our policies and our processes in place.
Jenny published the book.
Okay. Next, resolution, 9367 is acceptance of a donation. Be it resolved that the Watertown Unified School District accept the generous donation of $10,000 for the WHS Tech Ed Department submitted by an anonymous donor.
Motion.
Second, Mike, any discussion? Okay. I don't want to say voice. Once I just forgot my word for that.
Voice acclamation.
There you go. Thank you. Voice acclamation, please. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? And the motion carries. Resolution 9368. Be it resolved that the Watertown Unified School District accept the generous donation of $5,000 for Skills USA from Fisher Barton Incorporated in Watertown. Fred, second. Mike. Any discussion? Vote by voice acclamation. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Lastly, from fiscal, resolution 9369, be it resolved that the Watertown Unified School District Board of Education approve the purchase of the Ford Transit passenger van previously approved for purchase on September 23rd, 24 in the amount of $54,547 with an updated cost not to exceed $60,841.50, which will include the upfit modification to ensure proper vehicle titling as reviewed by Fiscal Management Committee. Do I have a first?
Motion.
Sam, second. Craig. Any discussion?
Yeah, 6,000 to remove a couple of seats.
They have to do a little more than that. Dan.
That's
So
Yeah,
that was
it's a pain.
discussed.
Yeah.
and-
They have to
and
plug
basically,
holes.
Yeah, they gotta take it out, plug the holes, make it so you can never put the seats back in again. And that's why it's
And we couldn't buy one already.
Nope, they
They
don't
don't
sell
make
them.
it that way anymore.
They don't sell them.
Nope.
It's crazy. It's crazy. Well, basically, in order for them to title it that way, that's what this is all about.
And probably to insure it and not require CDL. and
Right,
Yeah.
right.
All that
Yeah.
stuff.
Because only for school districts are vans with 12 or more seats considered buses. It's
Yeah.
wild.
So it's
All right,
crazy,
where's your
Dan, I
legislative
agree,
Otherwise, you're
And we had those
It's
questions.
just that it comes right after the large donation.
We had those same questions. in fiscal.
Okay, yeah.
Good question. I
Yeah, good
agree
question.
with you.
I had the encourage those tone in fiscal too.
I'm welding them back in afterwards, Dan.
Yeah.
Okay. Any additional discussion? Okay, roll call vote, please, Lynn.
Dan Voltner,
Yes.
Craig Wortman.
Yes.
Mike Higgins.
Yes.
Lori Holland.
Yes.
Fred Yant.
Yeah.
Diana Johnson.
Yes.
Sam Oinio.
Yes.
David Schrader.
Yes, and the motion carries. We are now to the part of the agenda for a second public comment section, giving the podium approximately 15 minutes, or I'll say 10 until 9 o'clock. Is there anyone who wants to take the mic? Same rules apply as before. Anybody online? Okay, I will now take a motion to adjourn the meeting as opposed to getting up and walking out. I got a motion from Fred, a second by Sam. All in favor? We're adjourned.